speed. So we learned an interesting argument between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, similar to our mission over here. Basically two arguments. One argument is when you're shechting a behemoth by avodah zarah, you're shechting an animal, and your intention is that the blood should be sprayed for avodah zarah. So the avodah you're doing right now with your shechita, you had no avodah zarah in mind. It's only that you had in mind that the next stage, you're going to sprinkle the blood of this animal on to avodah zarah. Rabbi Yochanan says the animal itself is possible because we could reckon from one activity thinking about the next one. The Shlakir says no, only the current activity. So it's mutter because the shechita itself was done properly. You had in mind to spray the blood. You cannot be mechasher from one avodah to the next. Rabbi Yochanan says you do mechasher avodah because you find the same thing by pigul. Pigul is you're shechting the animal, a kachim, and you have in mind that you're going to spray the blood the wrong time. You're eating the wrong time. And the Shlaki said that you don't learn chutz mepnim. You don't learn activity by avodah zarah from avoiding the base of Mikdash. And we had a similar argument within the base of Mikdash itself. Rabbi Yochanan said it's not limited only to pigul. For example, you shechted the animal having the right kavanah in mind, but you had in mind that when you're going to spray the blood, you're going to have loy l'shmoi. You're going to have the wrong animal in mind, the wrong carbon in mind. Rabbi Yochanan says, well, it's the same thing. In mechashim avodah, you ruin the animal. Shloki says, no. Even though it's an avodah in the pnim, you cannot compare it to pigul. Okay, so up to Gemara now, we're going to ask a question on both. Right in the middle of the page, the last of the line is Sheshes. Is Masiv Rav Sheshes? Rav Sheshes asked a question. Rabbi Yossi, name Rabbi Yossi. It says in the Brais, Rabbi Yossi said, Kal v'chomer hadvorim, we have a Kal v'chomer, and that is as follows. Uma b'mokim shemachshava peiselas mekdoshin. Madra by Hegdish, where let's say a machshava ruins it, let's say by, ruins it by mekdoshin. Yet, ein hakol hoilech echal achar oived, the only one who has the capacity to ruin the carbon is the one who's actually shechting it. Not when it comes to kabbanas, the owner of the animal, according to Rabbi Yossi, has no bearing. Before the where we had a machlekes tanaim, whether the owner of the animal had in mind pigul, what happens to the animal. But Rabbi Yossi holds that no, only the sheichet. So madach when it comes to kachim, that machshava, we just upstarted right now, and basically we discussed the machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Shlokish, whether you can think of one avodah to the next avodah or not. We had the argument by avodah zarah, we had the argument by kachim. You shechted an animal lishmoi, having in mind you can do the zrika lishmoi. Rabbi Yochanan says you can think from one avodah to the next. The Shlokish says he can't. So right up, if you go right in the middle of the page, Moshe Rav Sheish has a question. Rabbi Yossi came along and said, Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that the only one who can passel the carbon is the one who actually shechts the carbon, not the one who, not the owner of the animal, like by pigul. We had an argument in the Gemara, but that's what Rabbi Yossi's opinion is. Not like Rabbi Lezer. Uma b'mokim. So he said right in the middle of the page. Amar Rabbi Yisrael Chaim Advar Ma b'mokim shem machshava peisel madach the place where machshava passel b'mekdoshim. Yet ein hakol helech echach ha'ovid. The only one who can do that is the ovid by kabbanas. Mokim in a place she'ein machshava peiselis. Why by chulin? By chulin your machshava cannot passel other activities. Sounds like what? What are we talking about? We're chulin. We have a machshava by chulin. Only by avodah zarah. And he clearly says here two things. He says by hegdish one machshava does passel the yes. Chashim avodah lavodah sounds like Rabbi Yochanan, but when it comes to avodah zarah, he says the machshava will not passel. If you're shechting, it will not passel. Like Reish Lakish, that's going to be a problem for each one. So to avodah zarah, surely the only one who can make the animal avodah zarah is a sheikh. Now let's analyze what he meant. My ein machshava peiseled b'chulin. What do you mean? He said by chulin your machshava doesn't count. That what? That I don't care what you're thinking about when you're shechting an animal. The animal is kosher. So then what's the aved? When can you ever have an aved of shechting an animal for avodah zarah? It's only the shchita is the same as any other shchita. It's the machshava. But if you're telling me that he's saying here ipso facto that machshava never works. Then when do you ever have a case of avodah zarah? Obviously, we're talking about from one avodah to the next. Where do you find that it's also by avodah zarah? And how do you know that it's also? Because it's called zivchei mesim. It says by yochlu they will eat zivchei mesim, and just like a mace is also bahana, so to avodah zarah, if they eat from things that you're offered avodah zarah, it's also also bahana. And how do you know that a mace is also bahana? How do we know that? We learn out from, actually it says about Thomas Sham Miriam, and it says by Egla Rufa v'orfu Sham Esa Egla. Just like Egla, learn like there's Sham Sham. Just like Egla roof, you don't have any benefit from it, so too Mesa Osabana. And once you know Mesa Osabana, you're comparing Avodah Zara to the Echus of the Mesim, so therefore we know that Avodah Zara Osabana as well. But according to you, it will never happen, because the only way to happen is when you're Machshava, but doesn't count. Ella's pshita d'avoida la'avoida. What he meant was, if while you're shechting you thought by avoid, I'm going to sprinkle the blood for avoida zara. Oh, that doesn't work. Where do you find machshava operates? B'mugdashin. By avoida, right? By hegdish, it works from one avoida to another avoida. Let's say pigul, or maybe even lishma. You shechted correctly, and you had in mind the sprinkled blood incorrectly. And yet the din over there is limited only to the person who's shechting can have this kind of machshavas and have a bearing on the animal. Is mokum she'ei machshava paiselis, where machshava doesn't count by chulin, ma'avoida la'avoida, ela ba'is avoida by chulin ba'avoida zara. If you shechted and you had in mind avoida zara, that's avoida zara. But if you shechted and you had in mind you're going to sprinkle the blood for avoida zara, it's not effective. It's not avoida zara. So surely, in addition, the only one who can have an impact on it is the sheikh itself. So now we have a problem that writes on both. Pnim kasher ishlakish. It says here by hegdish. It says here clearly by hegdish that you could have an avoida to avoida, and ishlakish says you can't. Now what's the problem? Maybe we're talking about pigul. Maybe we're talking about pigul, because everyone agrees that that's what pigul is. You shechted and you had in mind you're going to eat it the wrong time. You shechted in mind you're going to sprinkle it the wrong time. But so Rashi ready
from one avodah to the other.
Yeah, that's one avodah to the other. Shechting, and you had in mind you can. So what's the kasha shlokish? Shlokish. No one argues about the law of pigul. Where they shlokish Rabbi can argue is you shechted the animal lishmoi, you shechted it correctly, and then you had in mind that you're going to do the zrika, the spraying of the blood, shaloi lishmoi, for different carbon, for example. That's avodah. What's the problem with the Bryce? Maybe the Bryce, when it says by kachim you can do avoida la'avoida, is referring to pigul. So Rashi says if that were the case, that Bryce would, instead of using the word paiselis, would use the word mifagelis, which is pigul, which is the correct word for using pigul. Okay, it takes us another shot. Kasha Rabbi Yechon's kasha is that problem, and this is very interesting. And takes us doesn't understand it. Ha mekame the shama me Rabbi Yechon, ha the boss of the shama Rabbi Yechon. That Rish Lakish, when he argues by Kachim, and he said, no, you can't do avodah la'avodah. It says clearly in the Braisa you could. So he says here, the way Rashi learned shot, everything that Rish Lakish learned was from Rabbi Yochanan. When Rish Lakish had that argument, Rish Lakish didn't learn yet this Mishnah and this Braisa. And therefore he argued. But as soon as he thought Rabbi Yochanan svara, I can argue. But the moment Rabbi Yochanan cited this Mishnah thing, he pulled back. So the Shem already asked. In that case, how can you ever ask a question of Shlakish? Someone will say, "Oh, that's before you heard about this Mishnah, before you heard about the Braisa," and they find it very good. Look at the last line, Tesis, the bottom of the page. Alama Tesom and Aleph. Homikame the Shomer Rabbi Yechon. Tema might teeter to them. What kind of teres imitated? Shomer Shlakish Kaidim Shalom the Mishnah. That he had an argument with them before he learned the sugya. Tesis, but he doesn't give a better answer. He doesn't have a better answer. But that's what the Gemara seems to be saying. Okay, so we understand this Lakish. Elochutz, but outside this, Rabbi Yochanan said that if you shechted, you could think about zrika, and it says clearly here that you can't. It says clearly here that there's no, you cannot be mechashev avoida by avoida zara. Question on Rabbi Yochanan. Who moishev lo, who mefargo? He asked and he answered it. This is what he says. Be'arba avoidas. Now the way Rashi learns translates like this, and Rashi actually makes an interesting chiddush. Rashi learned the difference between Chulin and Kachim is Kachim, there are four avodas. You're shechting, if you remember from Gemara Zvachim, there's shechting, there's Kabbalah of the blood, receiving the blood, there's the Zrika, the Hailacha, bring it to the Mizbech, and then there's the Zrika, the four steps. So Rashi learns that during any one of these four steps, if you thought, when you were accepting the blood, the Kabbalah, I'm going to be spraying the blood tomorrow, it becomes pigul. Or the Hailacha, while you're walking, during any one of the four steps. Mash'en came when it comes to avodah zara, it's only either through two steps, either while you're shechting or while you're spraying, but not while you're receiving the blood and not while you're walking. So therefore, that's lesser of mechashim avodah. When it says over there you cannot be mechashim, that doesn't mean you can't. It means you only have two opportunities versus four. And the chiddush of Rashi here is that's the way we always learned was that during shchita or during zrika you can have these things in mind. Rashi holds you can have it every stage in mind. The Rishonim argue And they learn Pshat is no. You can only do it during Shechita and Zrika. But during Shechita, you can have in mind, I'll do the Kabbalah tomorrow. In other words, any one of the four avodas will be ruined if you do it the wrong time. So if during Shechita I'll think I'll accept the blood tomorrow, I'll walk to the Mizbech with it tomorrow. Okay, that's pigul. By avodah zara, if you're shechting the animal properly, say I'm going to receive the blood for avodah zara, nothing happens because it's not an avodah by avodah zara. That's what it means. Very saying a machlekes, and interesting the machlekes is here, not in Masechtas Vachim. But you go look at only the person who did it. Shechted can have that bearing. We're Lama Testament based in the very top of the page. Mokim, the very first word of the line. Mokim 39b. Mokim she'ein machshava pesel v'chulin. So where the machshava does not pass by chulin, ela b'shtei avodas, you only have two opportunities, either shchita or the sprinkling. Actually, you can also do the haktorah itself, but we're not talking about that stage. You know, the actual roasting on them in front of Isaiah. Okay, so we reconcile the brayse according to both. Tanya, in fact, we learned in the brayse kavos Rabbi Yechon, like Rabbi Yechon, if somebody shechs an animal, lizreg dama lavoyacham, somebody shechs an animal to spray the blood for avodah zarah. So you shechted and had in mind the spraying. Right, one avodah thinking about another avodah. Well, the hak to roast the fat on the somewhere in front of the avodah zara. Had a eluzivche mason, they treated like this, like eating the corpses, which is aser bahana. Okay, so clearly we see here that you can mechashe for one avodah to the next. The Rishonim ask a very interesting question. Even the Shlokish said that what? That you cannot be mechashe from one avodah to the next avodah zara. Therefore, the animal is kosher. But the Rishonim will ask, but the fact is that you shechted for avodah zara, you become a mummer. You shechted for avodah zara. So since you become a mummer, and we know that if somebody is oived avodah zara or mechal Shabbos, his shechita is possible. We had that in Daf Yudalet. They were talking about Shabbos. If you shechted on Shabbos, his shechita is possible. So what's going on here? How can you tell me that okay, maybe the animal is kosher? But mitzvah avodah zara, right? But you are a meshumah. You're a mummer because you're doing it for avodah zara. So even if you tell me that you're not mechashem avodah, so the animal itself does not become zivchei mason, does not become asab noah, but your shchita is no good because you're a mummer. So the Rashba and many of the Rishonim answer, you don't become a mummer straight away. You become a mummer either the next time or only if you do this 3 times. You have to have a chazakah. So this is the first time. So you don't become a mummer. But the Rashba here answers, the Rashba, and that's the Rashba's answer in Daf Yudalet when you talk about Shabbos. You shechted on Shabbos, you say, oh, you're a mummer. So we answer, yes, next time. But not this first animal you did on Shabbos. But the Rashba here answers, avodah zara, you had in mind not that you were going to sprinkle the dam on avodah zara. Then you're a mummer. You had in mind that the goy will use the blood from this animal for avodah zara. That's what you had in mind. So therefore, you're not a mummer. You're not going to do anything wrong. Now the question is, why didn't he give the same answer that only the first time you're not yet a mummer? So one brilliant answer is as follows: the difference between Shabbos and avodah zara. By Shabbos, it's Melechas Machshavos. You have to complete the job. So when was the Shchita? Only when you finish the whole job. It's over already. So therefore, you only become a mummer. And now you became a mummer. Because when were you Mechal Shabbos? When you were Gemar Malacha, you finished. So you didn't become a mummer till you finished. So therefore, this Shchita is already over. So it's the next animal you're established that you're a mummer. When it comes to Avodah Zarah, we don't need the Gemar. Even if you started cutting, you're already over the Avodah Zarah. And therefore, you're a mummer in middle. So how can the shchita be kosher? That's why the Rashba has to answer over here. Not the second animal. He has to answer over here that it's the goy who's going to spray the blood. Now the brayse continues. We're going to focus on this section of the brayse. The brayse continues. What about shachta? You shechted the animal all right, and the achakar chishav afterward, for example, you shechted the animal right, and then you say, you know what? I'm going to take after you finish. I'm going to take the blood. And I'm going to spray it on the mizbech, or I'm going to roast it on the front of the avodah zarah. What happens to the rest of the animal? This is a story that happens in Kesari. They decided they can't rule. And interesting, we'll see why not. Lo isa, we can't say this is forbidden, nor heter. Nor can we say that this is permitted. What's going on here? Why not? Amr Chil said, out of respect for the different opinions. Okay, we didn't want to say it's us mishum kvoida and the rabbanan. In other words, what's the question here? The question here is when you shechted the animal, the goy is, let's say, if you hold the goy can have a bearing on the animal, according to the opinion that the goy's views have a bearing on the animal. But we had no idea what the goy was going to do until later. The goy said, "I'm going to spray this blood on the mizbech." Is it retrospective that the goy therefore always thought about this avodah zarah? Therefore, while you were shechting, the goy was thinking, "I'm going to use avodah zarah." So in other words, igloi milsel mafreya. This is retrospective that this is meant to be avodah zarah, or do we say no? Stam goy has no machshav avodah zarah. And now he decided to go ahead and sprinkle the blood, therefore the animal is kosher. So he didn't want to say Issa because Kvoid Rabbanon. They say that no. They say that a Stam Goy does not intend to do it for Avodah Zarah. And even though later on he decided that what? That he's going to use it for Avodah Zarah, we don't automatically say that it's Avodah Zarah. Because we say that Stam, when you shecht at the time of the shechting, probably wasn't Avodah Zarah. Now the guy decided to Avodah Zarah. So we're not going to say it's awesome. On the other hand, loy heter, we don't want to say it's heter. Rabbi Lezer holds that a stam goy does think about avodah zarah. Look at this one. Look what he's doing. So therefore, we didn't want to say it's mutter. So we're in a state of limbo. Says that's what the Gemara says. That's how the Chiz explains why we were in a dilemma. Says the Gemara, we don't see how you can relate the argument of Rabbi Lezer Chachamim to the story, and why not? Memai. What are you talking about? Dilma ad kan le come about house. When did Rabbanan say over there that what? That we say that the goy is, is not for avodah zarah because nothing happened. But over here, clearly 5 minutes later, he said, "I'm taking the blood and I'm going to sprinkle it." So he's screaming, "It's avodah zarah." Maybe Rabbanan agree. In this case, it's quite obvious that even the shchita he was thinking already avodah zarah. In fact, that's why he got to eat the shech animal. Ella the leishemanu the chashiv. We didn't hear that he wants avodah zarah. Abel hochav here the shemanu the chashiv here wants avodah zarah. Maybe hechiach seifet chilas. And Rabbanan will say in this case, yes, we agree that retrospectively that's what he wanted. Or inamior. Even Rabbi Lezer, the other way around. Rabbi Lezer says that a stam guy thinks about avodah zarah. Maybe inami ad kan le come about hasamela gabi oivig gechaven by goy. Now, what we're talking about over here is over here we're talking about the Eid is the one who decided to go ahead and to sprinkle the blood for avodah zarah. So, and you're extrapolating that just like by a goy, stam goy avodah zarah over here also. Here it's stronger than stam goy. Here it's a yid, but we see clearly what he's doing. No. Ad kan le kama Rabbi Lezer hasam elagabi by goy the stam machshavas oivig avodah. He holds a goy. He thinks avodah zarah. Abi Yisrael. We had in more avodah zarah, a big argument that if a yid makes avodah zarah, does it automatically come avodah zarah or not? And one opinion says that no, a goy once he makes avodah zarah, surely it's avodah zarah. But a yid is a good person, and until he actually does that later, we always say he can change his mind. So therefore, the same thing over here. Just because 5 minutes later he had a big yetzer hara to do avodah zarah doesn't prove in any way that 5 minutes ago he had the same kavanah. Yitzrei al-Bashay, the Yitzrei took over. So go back to the question: why is the dilemma then? Why lehet to Yisrael? Nothing to do with Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi in our Gemara. It's a different thing altogether. Whether you say an action later represents the past or can be interpreted as your past activity, and that goes as follows. Really, they wanted to say it's mutter yid shechted it, even though later we did it. It should be kosher the animal. Okay, the blood you can't use, but the bread should be kosher. No, but because the covet of Rav Shimon Gamliel, we decided, you know what, we're not going to be matter it because the fact is he did something later that maybe retrospectively shows us that he did avodah zarah, and Rashbag is of that opinion. Which Rashbag? Which Rashbag says that later, does later reflects on the past. The story by Gittin. That now we learned Habodi was a healthy person. He said to his wife, he said to people, "Kisvu get liishti, write a get for my wife," but he did not tell them give it. If a person's going to be hanged, or a person's going on an overseas trip and all that, we had, or was very sick, and he says write a get, even though if he didn't spell out, we had different opinions, but even though he didn't spell out give it, obviously why is he doing it? Because he thinks that he's not coming back, and he wants to help his wife. She shouldn't be stuck with his brother, be a Yavama. So he's, but if he's a healthy person, and he said, right, to get to his wife, maybe just teasing his wife. His wife is nudging, want to get out. So he's saying, oh, see, I'm on your side. And he got them to right to get, but he never intended to give it to her. He's just teasing her. Ma'isa was happened, the body shah, makisa get lishti. And then all the gag, the nafal the mace. And right after that, they wrote the get. He went on the roof, he fell off, and he died. Now, what happened was they gave her the get. The question is it valid get or not? Because the Sasno is saying that a body he never intended to give it, so had no right to give it to her. They weren't acting as his agent. But then he died. He fell off the roof and he died. Okay, so what do we do here? Depends. If he jumped off, then it shows us that all along he wanted to give her a get because he knew he was going to die. Then how does he get? So we see that his action later reflects on what he did before. If he fell off, it was an accident, the wind blew him off, then ain't a get. We ask, what's going on there? You start off saying that, well, that's not a get. And they tell me, he fell off the roof is a get. A few words are missing. After he's dead, he can't give a get. And the difference is that she's stuck with his brothers. If there was no children, there's a yibum. So he told her get, and now if he was a healthy person, he was just playing around with her. But then he fell off the roof. That shows that if he intended all along to die, then he actually meant that he should, even though he didn't give them instructions, give the get to my wife, that when they did it, that's what he intended. So these are the words that are missing in the Braisa of Hachitani. If it's obvious what he meant all along, how does it get? And actually it happened, the body, a healthy person, already keeps to get Lishti, right to get to my wife, all the gag, he went to the roof, Vinafal, and he fell over the base, he died. Now if he jumped off, how does it get? That means that all along this is his plan, and he wanted her to have the get. They had to give it to her. They didn't give it to her. It's too late already. Once he's dead, you can't give her a get. So they gave it to her. Question is whether it's valid or not. The Maruah does it, but the wind blew him off. Then ain't a get. It's not a get. Says the Gemara. What's the raya? What do you compare get to our case over here when he sprinkled the blood later for Avodah Zarah? There he actually he said something. Write a get. He's already getting involved in the get. Here he shechted the animal. Nothing with Avodah Zarah. 5 minutes later he decided I'll sprinkle the blood. Who said it reflects on the past? The following Rashbag. Time you learned, if somebody decides to write all of his assets over to somebody else, not to his own children, now if he wouldn't have written it to somebody else, it would have all been inherited by his children. It would have been bequeathed to his children. But he wrote it over to somebody else. And there were slaves there. And that beneficiary said, I don't want them. I don't want the slaves. If the second person is a kohen, they can eat truma. Why? Whether he likes or not, it became the new person. It belongs to him now, and they eat truma. Now, why did it become his? He said, "I want it." We'll see in a minute. Rav Shimon says, "Kivan shamad halo efshiben." Since the guy said, "I don't want it," because the guy said, "I want it." Since he said, "I don't want it," then it belonged to the Yoshim. And if it belongs to the Yoshim, therefore it is no longer Kani Truman. In other words, if he says, I don't want that avodim don't come then. Now, but we ask, what's going on here? The guy said, I don't want that avodim. What do you mean? You're forcing me to take a gift? I don't want that avodim. Amar Rabba says, Rabba, he tell me you want Rabbi Yechanan. Now, interesting, this Gemara here parallels the Gemara we had in the Vov. In Bab Metzia about talk for Koyin, exactly, and the Rishonim there. And I don't remember them bring this Gemara here. But it goes like Gemara says as follows. But Tzavach Mikar, when you're about to give him a gift, and he says, I refuse to accept your avodim, everyone agrees you can't force someone to take things, to accept it. B'shoyisik, or the Aflama Tesla based near the bottom. B'shoyisik u'b'tzayv tzavach. We made up yesterday. We're going to learn today 6:15. I should put on the. Are you on the WhatsApp thing? Oh.
I came here this morning.
You were here 6 o'clock.
And it was over here, so I just left to Bitcoin and I saw you.
All right, sorry.
Came back to
Sorry, apologies.
My phone.
So this Gemara, Mamash parallels Gemara on Talk for Koyin, and the Rishonim, they all go through the whole thing over there, when they about screaming and all that. And how do we understand if he was quiet and then he screamed? How do we interpret that? It's Mamash, and there's a suffix where they take who's Mamash is Gemara right here, and he would say it's a machlekes. The Gemara like this: if he screamed, the guy gave him a gift, avodim, said, I don't want the evid. Everyone agrees. No machlekes. What do you call it? Tzavach meikar k'layim pligi the lekad is not koyin. If he accepted, the third wide line. If he accepted, we're talking about if an action later reflects on the past or not. If he accepted it and then he screamed, In other words, he accepted the gift and said, no, I don't want that avodim. Too late. Once you were kind of, you can't just walk away from it. You got to be macking and give it to somebody else. They're talking about a case like this. You gave it to a third person. He said, I want you to be acquired on behalf of that person. They're all of my assets. And he saw that. B'shasak, he didn't say a word. And in those assets were included slaves. And he didn't say a word, didn't protest. And then later, now that he's looking into all the assets, Tzavach, he screamed. How do we understand now? What do you mean? Since he was quiet till now, he was kind straight away. Later on, he said, I want a body. He changed his mind. However, the Rashbag holds, we have to put the video on. The Rashbag holds, the Rashbag holds that the way he behaved at the end reveals on the past. That means what? If he screamed at the end, I don't want it, that means he never wanted it. So how can he wait until later on to scream? I don't have it yet in my hand. Why do I have to scream for? I don't have what to object for. Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda said name of Shmuel. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi that you cannot, that another person cannot have a machshava. The goy cannot have a machshava when the Eid is shechting. If the goy is thinking about a Avodah Zarah, has no impact whatsoever. And the same thing is by kotchim. Only the kohen. Not like Rabbi Lezer says that even the balabos can have an impact on the korban when it's a people. Not only the kohen. Says Gemara at the end, Hanataya, there were these Ishmaelim, the Oshul Tzikunya. They came to the city of Tzikunya. Yoav Dikil Tavchisol. They gave their animals to a Jewish sheikh. They wanted him to shecht. And interesting what Rashi says here, that they wanted him to shecht. Says Rashi, they used to give it. Okay, missaid. They gave it to the eater shecht. So Rashi says they would only eat geschachten meat. And even if the animal was an avela, they wanted the eat to go over and do a shchita. What's that all about? Even if the animal was an avela, where did Rashi get this from? It's one thing they eat halal. They want a shchita meat. But Rashi says that he makes a meileh, sheichet oisa lachla. Do I have to shecht it? Don't know. Anyway, so you want to say weiter?
I said before they shecht would be the same.
Yeah, but they don't count that as
okay.
It's like both happening at the same time. Here's an avela meila, so mamash avela, but they still want a shchita to make it something. This is said to him, Doma, the blood, the tarban, the fat still is done. The animal's yours, but we want to buy it from you. We're a shutta with you, a partner. And the skin, the hide, and the flesh is yours. So you go have a share in it, and Stam go is Avodah Zarah according to the Tanakama and according to Rabbi Elazar. So what would it be in this case here? Not according to Rabbi Yossi because the guy is no beard. So he says shortly he said to him, Hochi Amashmu Halacha Rabbi Yossi. Another person's machshava has no effect on the person who's shechting, so there's nothing to talk about. What about Rabbi Lezer who holds that the guy could have a bearing? What would be in this case? He doesn't own the animal. He only gave money to buy the blood. He's a shuttif. He gave money to the. What if he gave money to these? He said, I want to be a partner. I'm giving you some money. And according to Chachamim, his machshava has a bearing. What would it be in this case? Is he the balabot because he gave some money for it? The depends. If he's a strong person that you can't, no choice, you have to take him as a partner. It's also because money is kindness, and you can't tell him take your money back. But if he's not a strong arm person, the head, take the head and bump your head against the wall. You have no shutfas here. I don't want your money. You have no chelik in it. Why would I let you ruin my Avodah Zarah? And the other Mephoshim have a whole complaint. I have a whole problem that I just told you, which is Rashi. L'chayda moy is a kindness. If moy is a kindness, what's the chelik if it's a strong person or a weak person? Moy is kindness. The guy has a chelik in it. So others say that this whole Gemara is going according to the opinion. If moy is kindness, goes according to having b'chaydus later. We go to the opinion that a guy cannot be kindness with money. Others say that the guy is kindness. And the Eid, let's say, becomes the shliach for both, but the kuni, what do you call it? The kuni should die to after. I'm only accepting you as a partner to help me out, not to ruin me. So therefore, I don't accept your partnership.
Going back, it says if the animal is slaughtered for idolatrous purposes, they use the skin and the flesh. So you're saying,
Only if it belongs to a yid and the guy had a small little partnership for the blood and the fats, and the guy thinks about Avodah Zarah. So we say the ruling is like Rabbi Yossi, that the guy, he didn't do anything. It's just his thoughts. And his thoughts cannot have any impact on the animal that was slaughtered by a proper sheikhet. That's what we're saying. He can't have an impact. That's Allah. He knows an argument.
skin used to-
Everything can be used.
it's the first-
Everything can be used. The meat, everything. The guy has no bearing on it. Let's just do the Mishnah. Sheikhet l'shem harim. The guy shechts, he has in mind mountains. L'shem voice, hills, l'shem yamim for the sea, l'shem not the river, l'shem idboris for the wilderness, shchitas psula. The shchit itself is possible because these are all avodah zarah. In other words, he said that I'm going to make this avodah zarah, make avodah zarah, and all that. It becomes possible because you're doing l'shem avodah zarah. It's not rasa b'hano because eleheim ala harim. They cannot become avodah zarah, but nevertheless, you're doing it as for avodah zarah, so it's possible. The shchita is possible. And we'll learn the Gemara tomorrow on that. Two people are holding onto the knife. V'sheichtin, according to Rashi, they're both holding on at the same time. Echel l'shem echem mikol elu. One of them is having in mind avodah zarah, and the echel l'shem davar kosher. According to Rashi, the other Shem learned that one put it part of the shchita with the knife, then another guy came on. No, each one did it completely part on his own. But actually, they did it together. One guy's holding this part of the knife, one guy's holding the handle, and one guy had in mind avodah zarah, and one guy had in mind kosher. The din is chitas psula. The shchita is possible, and we'll explain what's going on. We'll continue tomorrow morning. Hashem, back to 6 o'clock.